Hello, my name is Dr. Alicia Peña-Visama. I'm a chartered counseling psychologist and I have a doctorate in occupational health psychology looking at burnout and facilitating people's return to work. This video will be focused on stress, burnout, and PTSD. Stress is a natural and normal physiological response that all of us have as human beings when our demands exceed our resources. It is an adaptive response to deal with change, but it affects our body negatively when it goes on for a long period of time. Symptoms like aches and pains, stomach aches, headaches, altered sleep, altered eating, and reduced healthy activities. Whereas burnout is a prolonged experience of stress in a work situation, so it's work related. When the demands are increasing rapidly and over a prolonged period of time, where there are more responsibilities, where the goals are unclear, where the individual feels perhaps that there is difficulty in communications with peers, a sense of unfairness, or a sense that something is over demanding, and it affects people who are overcommitted, really care about their client group and patients, particularly frontline individuals who want to do a lot for people and overextend, and so therefore not having the ability to look after themselves and take a break at regular times. So things that can happen instead, the difference between stress and burnout is that burnout is work related and has three components. It has the exhaustion, mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, cynicism or a sense of detachment, compassion fatigue, where it's difficult to engage with work or the work is perceived as something that is different now, the values have changed. Whereas stress is prolonged, it's physiological, and people still have a sense that once the tension disappears or there is a way of managing the stressors, there is hope. Whereas with burnout, there is loss of hope. There is difficulty of making any changes, having a sense of helplessness. Now, PTSD is a physiological response. Now, whenever there is a traumatic event, we all react automatically when we're feeling overpowered. So it's the physiological response when we are overpowered by the event. There isn't much we can do. So, for example, an accident or an assault. And so if the event is beyond our physiological capacity, so every human being will have a response of shock, of disbelief, that finding it very difficult to manage the event, not being able to think about anything else, emotionally aroused and feeling stressed by the event. And after the event, after a few days, weeks, still reliving that experience, having a sense of detachment or emotional upset. So very variable reaction. And some people react much later. So it's about allowing space and time to deal with these events and creating opportunities to be able to talk with individuals in all three conditions. But the PTSD response happens to a few individuals. The majority of us, when we are in these events, will be able to manage through, provided there is the space to talk about it, there's support, whether we can talk or just feel understood that we've had an unusual event happening and that we require some time to recover, and it's helpful to connect and talk with others. Now, PTSD develops when it goes on for a prolonged period of time. The individual continues to have flashbacks, nightmares, not being able to sleep well, feeling frightened, fearful of going into a situation, and that increases. And so therefore feeling worse, and health is being affected and not being able to concentrate on anything that is for work related and feeling very vulnerable. So now what can be done to restore these conditions? Well, for all conditions, it's very important to maintain physical well-being. So creating routine, particularly important after a traumatic event, to create a routine to restore a sense of balance, to manage all that uncertainty that has stimulated with as a result of this event, not knowing what's going to happen. But for all conditions, exercise, going outdoors, connecting with people, having quiet time, taking breaks from screens, because the exhaustion of the online work, particularly during COVID, will have been added to the day-to-day concerns that individuals will have, and the drain on our physical resources. In addition, people may have additional pressures at home with homeschooling, or caring for somebody who's ill, or worried about somebody who might be ill. So other symptoms, other techniques that can be self-compassion, developing self-awareness, and taking care of ourselves. Going out into nature, very soothing, doing some relaxation activities. Some people may like yoga, other people may want to listen to music, different activities, having options of things that are restorative for the individual. And connecting with others, particularly with burnout, very important. The conditions that can prevent and that can help people to restore well-being is to have a sense of the work can be looked at, and looking at whether the workload can be paced, can it be adjusted, having a sense that the manager and the team understand the conditions, that this is an unusual situation with COVID, looking at the responsibilities, also looking at managing the relationships, because a supportive team, supportive individuals nearby are preventative and supportive, like a buffer to the challenges of relentless demand. Then it's about protecting sleep time in all conditions, because sleep is affected and it reduces energy level and it prevents the normal restoration that we require each day. So addition for burnout and for PTSD is to support people and boost their confidence, giving graded tasks, giving feedback, monitoring, maybe developing a plan where they can look at what they can do, pace it, monitor it, and see that there is progress, and valuing that work. Partly for burnout, people feel unappreciated, or that their work doesn't seem to be making a difference, or they've lost the connection with the meaning, especially with the compassion fatigue, a loss of connection with the patient, or not being able to, wanting to be able to do more, but feeling that they can't because there's limited resources and limited options to be able to help people. And this tends to happen, this condition, studies show that it's affected or started with looking at people in services, where it is relating to other individuals and wanting to care, so over empathizing sometimes, or really wanting to care, but then when it's too much, relentless, there isn't enough care, and it's difficulty to maintain those boundaries. So part of their recovery is to establish boundaries, looking at the workload, looking at the relationships, creating supportive environment, making it evident that they can talk, they can take breaks, saying that it's okay to take breaks for looking after themselves. Now, when to refer, very important to observe, and if there's any changes on behavior that individuals in their way of manifesting, have they changed differently, if there are absences, or they're quieter or more irritable. So noticing those changes in behavior, having those conversations, maybe even a 5-minute conversation can be very supportive and less intrusive, giving the opportunity for the person to approach. You can hand them their handout that I've put more detail in, and have that conversation, and the opportunity. Maybe that first they may not want to have that conversation, but knowing that you're open to talk to them about that and you're willing to listen, they may come back and say, well, I have some concerns, or what can be done different, how can the work be adjusted. Then with their permission as well, to be able to talk with the team to see what could be adjusted, and creating opportunity for collegiality, to be able to have a commonality and understanding that this is a difficult time, we're supporting each other, and we give ourselves space to look after ourselves, and that is value. So prioritizing health and modeling prioritizing health. Now, when to refer for specialist support? When the individual's condition or symptoms are prolonged, they don't get better, in fact, they're getting worse. The individuals may be staying at home or feeling ill, or not wanting, shying away from responsibilities, checking in with them, having a conversation about what would be helpful, and for them to and work together, discussing and negotiate what would be helpful for that individual. So referrals to GPs to look after themselves, but also could be to whatever process of return in your organization with HR or occupational health to see what support and what protocols there are in your organization. So supporting, giving individuals, validating their efforts to look after themselves, that their culture is accepting of wanting to be able to take breaks, monitoring and negotiating this with the group so that the tasks are equally shared, so that there isn't a growth of a sense of unfairness, and then looking at what would be best for the individual, what would be best for the team. So there are more details in the handout, and you can then also be familiar with the procedures that each organization has about supporting individuals. Thank you.